Okay, so what this video is going to show is how to install XAMPP, XAMPP, a web server that can be used for development and testing purposes. It is not recommended to use this in deployment because it does have a few little quirks and issues. So in whatever search engine, just search for XAMPP, and we've got apachefriends.org. We're going to go through to look at the installers. And you've got Windows, Linux, and OS X versions. I'm going to download the Windows version. And I've actually already got a copy downloaded, so I'm going to cancel that one and just run the existing installer. And let it make the changes. Now it can take a few minutes to sort of download and install. Might give you a little error message, and it's basically saying avoiding installing into the program files because we don't get all the right permissions. So what we're going to do is run through the wizard. Now by default it needs Apache, which is the web server, PHP, which gives you the CGI and the back-end web server interaction. It installs PHP MyAdmin and MySQL by default. These are really useful. You don't want to untick those. The rest we don't need to worry about as much. So you can sort of get rid of some of the other features, but I'm just going to leave everything actually installed. But we only need, the only optional ones we need are MySQL and PHP MyAdmin. Run it, choose the folder. By default it's going to dump it into the C drive. Remember, it won't, if you've got Windows account control, it's not going to let you put it into the program files. So I'm just going to leave it in C drive XAMPP. I could actually put that into one of my other folders. Let's say onto one of my OneDrive areas, but because I'm actually going to be using version control to manage this, it's not going to have as much of an issue. So I'm going to hit next, run through. I don't want to use Bitnami, which is basically an additional interface for installing existing applications like WordPress. So if you're going to build a WordPress development server, do that. And let's let it go through and install. Now, if when installing you get any security alerts, such as for the Apache server, allow them access. Now it'll eventually finish up and ask if you want to run the control panel. I'm going to choose yes to run that. That's going to give us some options to run it in English or German. Click on, make sure the American flag is selected if you want it in English. Hit save. And we might get a couple of little error messages, so let's have a look at those. And let's try and start it up. So we can get Apache, we can see it's running. MySQL is running. Okay, it's asked us to allow access to that. I'm going to do that. And they're basically all I'm going to need to have running. If I click on Explorer, it takes me to the default folder where everything is. What we'll notice is there's an htdocs page here, which is where all the files are going to go. So these are what will actually appear when we actually run it. So let's go back to our little preview. We can see what services there are, and we can go and administer and configure these from here if we need to. So we shouldn't need to worry about too much for here. So I'm just going to go into my browser and create a new tab, and we can either go to localhost, which is basically the computer we're running on, and this is actually loaded up the index.html page. Another way to get there is 127.0.0.1, which is the home address. Okay, so now I'm actually going to go and do a bit of purging of the files that are in that htdocs folder. So to do that, I can either go back through the settings option, If you close it from down here, it should appear in the bottom right hand tray. Or I can go through the Explorer, go into my htdocs, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to delete that index.php, go back into XAMPP, and now just try 127.0.1.1. Now, because it hasn't got an index file, we don't actually see anything. It's just showing a folder menu. So we can't exactly see what's going on here. Now, what we're going to do is use whatever editor of a choice. I'm going to use brackets, and I'm going to navigate to that folder. So I'm going to go back to my C drive, go to my XAMPP folder, and then go to my htdocs. I can customize where these go, but I'm just going to select that folder for now. Okay, blah blah blah. Now I'm going to go File New, and I can save just a basic HTML page or whatever. So I'm just going to quickly actually create a PHP file. So I'm just going to save this initially. And PHP means I'm going to be using PHP scripts. So they always have a .php file extension. So the first page of a website is always going to be index. So I'm just going to load that one up. And I'm actually just going to grab some code basically from W3 Schools in PHP. So we've got some code here. I'm just going to copy that and then I'll talk through it. So let's make that nice and big. So we've got a traditional doc type HTML, and all the rest, or the majority of the rest, is pretty much similar. So we've got our starting HTML tag, closing, our body, our first, and the new tag we have is this bracket question mark PHP, which starts our PHP code, and then our closing tag. And echo basically means print it as if it was HTML. So if we're going to run this, so let's switch back into XAMPP, and we can see it's popping up our hello world. Now if I were to modify this to be some other form of valid HTML, you can see it is actually using those settings. Now, disadvantage is it doesn't, when you're using this echo, it doesn't actually realize that it's valid HTML, so you've actually got to be pretty careful with your spelling and checking. But that is how to get a first PHP file up and running on a web server.